I'm going to be talking about the Olympics, but not for the reasons that you might expect based on some of the headlines and all the hullabaloo going on about the Olympics and all this kind of stuff. So get ready for it. This is actually going to be an unexpected take on some of the stuff going on at the Olympics, which is AI surveillance. Massive, massive surveillance going on with the use of AI over at the Olympics. So if you are over there, you listen to this and you know somebody who is, you are going to get to experience firsthand how AI surveillance is being used to help, honestly, just digging into it more, mitigate a lot of the risks of that many people from that many countries, that many different perspectives in a competitive environment, all coming together in a very consolidated location. And this has been a problem that has existed forever where it's like, well, how do we actually keep an eye on some of the real things that can happen? Yes, obviously there's the extreme examples where somebody wants to do something crazy, but then there's also just practical ones like somebody falling down in a massive crowd of people and potentially getting trampled or pressed up against fences and being crushed because of this kind of stuff. And there's not enough police officers in the world to be able to monitor and stay on top of all this stuff. And so it becomes a ton of noise that they're now saying, you know what, we should be using AI for this. And so if you're trying to stay off the grid, Paris, France is not the place to be right now because there are camera devices all over the place watching for this stuff. And I dug into it because I was curious how they're using it. And there's some fair critiques on, there's support for it, which, like I said, I think there are some very legitimate reasons why this can be super helpful. There's more stuff going on. There's more people going on. There's more video footage of things happening than any human being on the planet could possibly keep tabs on, or any police force could ever try and manage. So I understand it's like, so what do we do about it? And I think this is a situation where AI can be a really powerful tool to say, okay, how do we legitimately have not just eyes everywhere? Because eyes everywhere is only good if those eyes are actually cueing you. I mean, the whole point of seeing is so that you can make a decision and do something about what you're seeing. If that sight goes nowhere and it's like, oh yeah, well, we have video footage now of people getting trampled to death or crushed. Okay, like, well, too bad, so sad. Like they're already gone. Like there's nothing we can do about it. And I think this is where AI has some real potential to say, well, there are patterns, there are things we can be watching for, there are things that we can flag that will help us get in front of it and help us better utilize our resources and say, hey, we need to send police forces over here. We need to send an ambulance over here because we saw this thing happen and we got a notification and it made us aware that something needs to be taken care of. I think that can be really powerful. Some of the critiques coming around, though, and there are people who are really, I think, understandably concerned that, okay, how are these systems really going to be used? And will they continue being used long after the Olympics are done? And so, okay, the Olympics are done and you don't have this unsurmountable volume of stuff. Well, people go, well, it was kind of convenient to have these AI sensing devices all over the place that were watching for stuff. And now, you know what? Why don't we just keep these on all the time and try and catch this stuff? And what exactly is it looking for? And what are the implications of all of that? Because there is real bias and risk built into some of these things that, I can understand why people would go, I don't necessarily want AI systems just everywhere watching everything and potentially, and I get it's tense, and that's why I have mixed feelings on it. Now, one thing that I thought, based on some of the representatives from the company and some of the things I dug into about the surveillance systems that they're using, is that they are not designed to automate decisions. And so I thought, hey, in terms of like the human in the loop, the point of these systems is not necessarily to say, oh, I saw this, and so I'm, deploying police to this, or I'm automatically calling an ambulance based on this. What it's designed to do, the way this system in particular is set up, is to be set to watch for certain kinds of things and then bring those notifications up to a team that is specially trained to evaluate then what it's found and determine what actions to take. So I actually think, based on what I've seen, and again, I know there's going to be the people out there that are like, yeah, right. And it's like, well, I can't operate off speculation and hyperbole of what may be, but I can speculate off what I understand about the technology and what they're saying they're using it for, and how they are clearly laying out what their plans are and how it's being used, which I actually think it's a very healthy use of this kind of technology. You have a real problem on your hand, more people than you can possibly manage or even hire human beings to be involved with. You have real risks associated with this, the risk of people doing crazy things, people being angry, drunk, stuff like this, people being trampled. I mean, there's real legitimate risks that there's not enough people to watch out for. And hey, you know what? Cameras can catch some of that stuff, and cameras by themselves, even if you catch a video, there's not enough to do. So it's a real problem that you go, man, this is a scale problem. We don't have enough human beings to scale this. Legitimate use case for AI. And I was, again, happy to see that they go, and our goal here is not to have the AI systems make determinations about what to do. They have clearly invested in the training of the teams who are responsible for making decisions and taking action on that, of how to, review the notifications. And I'm sure there's feedback loops in place to better train the AI to identify false positives and stuff like this. At the same time, I understand the concerns that people have about us moving more to this hyper surveillance, world where we're being watched at all times. Now, personally, I think this is something that we probably is happening more than we realize anyway. If you're in any major city, I watch enough crime shows to know, like, people get caught on surveillance cameras all the time. The biggest challenge is that, half the time there's not enough eyes to see what's on the surveillance cameras, and the systems are disconnected, which, there's a lot of crimes that go unsolved, or a lot of crimes that go unaddressed because of that problem. And so I see the one side saying, hey, this helps solve that problem. I also completely understand and recognize the side and agree with the side that says, yeah, but our systems are extremely biased. And how is this thing trained? And what is it trained to do? And how is this going to be used to make sure that it's fair and ethical? And I think those are legitimate concerns that we're going to have to watch as more of this happens. And it'll be interesting to see how effective these systems are. Will it identify or catch risks before they would have been caught, or that would have otherwise been missed? I think one of the hard parts in terms of proving the effectiveness is, like anything, when you're in the business of catching things before they happen, it's kind of like, well, how do you prove that it would have happened, type of a thing. And I think, what was that? What was that movie? Anyway, the movie I remember that was all about this, where they were predicting crimes before they happened. Minority Report. There it is. So anyway, I don't know that we're there yet, but yeah, if you're over in Paris right now, just know you are being watched by the AI teams. I'm also curious what they're doing with that data. I don't know that they're doing any personally identifiable information on that. I think it's largely aggregated. So I guess we'll see what happens and how that goes.